Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whatever the I Want podcast, where our host Gabby gets to talk about whatever the I want. And today's episode is going to be about rediscovering yourself. So, I feel like as we go through life, we are shaped by the people around us, and oftentimes it may make us second guess or question ourselves because we all try to morph to be the people around us. Now, I think it's perfectly normal to pick up catchphrases or habits or like mañas from the people around you. And I've noticed that I do that. It's normal to pick up those things. But I think it's also important to remember who you are at your core. And I think you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing, and be open to evolving and that not being what everybody else deems as what's in, what's popular, what's cool. For example, when I was in college, I had no burning desire to get my septum pierced. It was just a random day. My sister came up to visit and she was like, let's just go get piercings. And I don't remember being like, oh, I really, really want my septum. But that day I decided to get my septum done. And of course, it's a huge part of my identity. Like a lot of people use that as a way to talk about me, like, oh, Gabby, oh, the one with the nose ring, the bull ring. Like I remember in college, like a lot of people would use that as like an identifying factor, and now it's a huge part of who I am. It's been, I believe I was doing the math, like 9-10 years since I've had it, and I'm like, wow, I still have it and I love it, even though it was just something that was just so random. I could have decided that day to get any other piercing, but that day I decided to get that one. Okay, I have also always during that time wanted to get the side of my nose pierced, and I always wanted a hoop. I even wore a fake ring during high school, and I wore a fake one here and there throughout college. And the main reason why I never got it pierced was because my mom said, if you get it pierced, you're going to eventually take it out and you're going to have a hole in the middle of your nose and it's going to look so bad, right? And I still have that little voice in the back of my head telling me that if I get it pierced, it is eventually just going to be a hole in the middle of my nose. I think I also have this fear that somebody's going to misplace it, because you do see some piercers like put it in a place that just, I feel like it doesn't flow well. So I think that's like another subconscious fear that I have with getting a nose ring. But I think I was reflecting yesterday and I was like, this is something that I've wanted for, well, I mean, I'm hitting 10 years from graduating high school this year. And this was like during sophomore year where I was like, oh, I really, I'm like 15 years old. I'm like, I really want this side of my nose pierced, whatever. So this is well over, 12 years of me wanting something, but I never did it, right? And you're looking at me now, for those of you watching the podcast versus the listeners, I still don't have that nose ring, right? And I remember one of my friends, she is half Pakistani, and she was like, do it on your left side, Gabby. Like, if you ever get your nose ring, do it on your left side, because left side is cultural. It's cultural to a lot of Middle Eastern countries. And so it's just a more ethnic way of doing it. It's more symbolic versus doing it on the right side. She's like, white people do that. Don't do it on the right side. White people do that. Do it on the left because it has meaning. Do I know what the meaning is? I think I learned about it when I was in college, but I was like, it slipped my mind, right? It's not something that I could actively tell you what it means. I think it's like a coming of age type of thing because it's very common to get nose rings in a lot of those cultures. Now, I'm realizing as I'm rediscovering myself and coming to and entering this new chapter of my life, I'm getting into my, I'm in my late 20s, I'm approaching my early 30s. And so I think you kind of just it's like your Saturn return is what they call it, but you basically, it's like every 25 to 28 years, I'll put up on the screen how much time actually Saturn return is, but it's about that time frame, and it's basically like where, you know, your whole world kind of turns upside down and you come back to who you are. And I think that's a big part of what's happening right now in my life is I'm just uh doing my loop around, and I'm coming back, and I'm like, wow, I have suppressed so many sides to me. I've suppressed a lot of who I am solely to allow myself to be more digestible for people, because I've dated so many people and even had friends or people around me that are like, Gabby, you're so loud. Gabby, you're so this. Gabby, you're so that. And I'm like, and so I would just shrink myself little by little. And I'm not saying I shrunk myself like to where I'm a super duper small like person. I know that I'm not, but I have a lot of fire in my chart. I'm a very fiery person, a lot of Aries in my chart. I remember I was going to, I believe it was a wedding, and I was wearing a black dress, and I approached a family member, and they're like, "Oh, me and my husband put money on you wearing black today." And they're like, "You're just always wearing black." And I'm like, I don't know, it just felt like either that I was super predictable, or just it just didn't sit right with me. And so now I've been like more conscious of like me wearing black, and you know, trying not to buy black dresses, but just in reality I like the color black. I think it's a very sexy, classy color. And like, why did I allow that one comment to make me second guess a lot of the things? I've also been told that like I wear a lot of red. Red is my favorite color. Red is sexy, red is romantic, red is passionate. And so what if I wear red a lot? It's just a color that I like. And I think that I'm just reminding myself that it's okay to be predictable to people. It's okay to, you know, have certain things be a part of my identity. I'm just somebody who likes those darker, sultry colors. And sometimes I do wear like pink or, you know, yellow, and I do wear colors, but I think as I've gotten older, I've just really loved the color black. It's not my favorite color, but I would definitely say it's up there with red. You know, red is my number one. And I say all of this just to bring up the point that as you're going about life, it is okay to change, and it is okay to find things about yourself again. I am somebody who loves to write. I love writing. It's a big part of who I am. And a big reason why I stopped writing is because I tended to have the most inspiration to write whenever I would be really, really sad. So anytime I was going through a breakup, it would just inspire me to write and things like that. And I remember sharing writings of mine with other people in my life, and they're like, Gabby, are you okay? Because a lot of it was very dark, you know, it's very just like dark. It's just the way that my writing goes. But it's not that I feel, you know, all of these feelings, but as somebody who is emotional, things do feel, or it might be easier to express the way I feel with it being something that's very dramatic, right? My mom has always called me a dramatic person. She even got me house slippers that said drama queen when I was growing up. They were purple and green. And, you know, she's always like, you're a drama queen. You're very dramatic, you know, and I think that that word is maybe not the best way to describe myself. I think, yes, I can be dramatic, but I think that's a big part of being an artist, right? I think artists just feel all the feels intensely, right? We can just be intense people because we just have a lot of emotions and we have different ways of expressing ourselves. Now, in the artist way, they talk about how anybody can be an artist, and I firmly believe that. A lot of it is just practicing, right? Like just like an athlete practices every day, it's the same thing as being an artist. You know, an athlete works out their muscles every day, an artist has to work out their creative brain, and also like allowing that to flow through you, because as an artist, whenever you feel, it a lot of it comes from your heart and from your soul. You know what I mean? Like drawing, painting, you know, pottery, like those are just vessels of you expressing yourself. But I think that a big part of it is like how you feel internally. And like yeah, I might be like talking about how like this breakup is the end of the world and I hate my life and blah 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 blah. But like ultimately it's just that feeling in that moment, right? It's not like I actually feel that way all the time. And I will be sharing more of my um writings with you all. Um but it's like what SZA said. After SZA released her newest album, she basically said that like these are songs that we're enjoying now that she wrote years and years and years and years ago about people that we don't even know about. And like obviously everybody's always speculating, oh, it's about this person, it's about that person, and this is how she feels, blah blah blah. Same thing with like Sabrina Carpenter, oh, it's about this guy and that guy or whatever. And so what if it's about somebody who they were recently dating or not recently dating? What matters is that they allowed themselves to be this vessel and for people to, you know, feel whatever they were needing to say, because it's going to resonate with somebody. And so I think that that's another big part of it is like I feel like as I've been rediscovering who I am, I'm realizing that, for example, this jacket. This is a jacket I thrifted years ago, and I've had several people like look through my closet and they're like, "You never wear this. I don't like it." Whatever. And I'm like, I really like the jacket. I think it's super swaggy. And then today I wore it, and the people who are telling me that they don't like it are like, I really like your jacket. You know, I guess it does look good on you. And I'm like, but I mean, it's, you don't realize that you subconsciously allow for people to dictate things about you or to convince you that you should change, when in reality, that should just reaffirm, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you think that I have a nose ring just like a lot of other people. So what? They wanted a nose ring and I wanted one too. So what if I'm wearing this jacket that you might not like? I like it. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. And I think we just get so caught up throughout life, especially throughout your teens, and like as you're discovering who you are and your identity, you allow yourself to morph into whatever society is like, yeah, that's cool, that's acceptable, I like that. And for what? Then you lose your sense of self. And I think that that's what I'm realizing, is that I was allowing myself to conform to people because of like subconsciously like wanting to fit in. And you know what's crazy is so many other people in this world have told me like, Gabby, you've always stayed so true to yourself. Gabby, you're so authentic. You've always had your own sense of style. You've always done your own thing. And like, it's crazy to think that internally I haven't felt that way, right? So it's like interesting to see how people perceive you versus like how you actually feel inside. And you know, like I remember whenever I first started cosplaying, like I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I really enjoy it. And I still do. And I'm going to be doing more cosplay soon. But I would feel so embarrassed being outside. I cosplayed a lot during COVID and I was outside in Miami. I'd literally be outside of my apartment, like as a freaking Power Ranger. Like, and I would worry a lot, like, oh my gosh, what people are thinking of me? They're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I was just really like insecure or like self aware of myself. And now I'm realizing like, okay, so what if you're filming yourself outside? This is a passion of yours. This is a passion of yours. So why are you allowing for your anxiety to get in the way? Because it's your anxiety that's telling you people are looking, people are staring. And so what if people are looking or people are staring? It's like, oh, look, there's a pink Power Ranger. Like, how often do you look outside of your window and you see a Power Ranger taking pictures? Like, that does not happen, right? So I think I just also have to learn to accept that people are gonna look, and that doesn't always mean that it's a bad thing, right? We think that like, oh, somebody's staring at me, it must mean that I'm doing something embarrassing. And I've had a ton of embarrassing moments in my life. I've literally written somewhat of a script because one of my goals in life is to do a stand-up comedy show. I think that'd be so much fun. Or even like an open mic night, and I have a lot of material, and it's crazy that like it's fucking true. Like a lot of the material is just like embarrassing moments that have happened in my life, and like, you know, I think that it's funny. It's just like, damn girl, that really happened to you. And so, you know, that's something that I want to do in life, and that's something I've been constantly rediscovering. Like, I love writing. I would love to write a script. I would love to write a film. And so these are things that I plan to do in my life. Voice acting, that's something I've always, always, always wanted to do. I was talking to somebody recently. We were hanging out, and I talk for Miko, my cat, a lot. I'll be like, and then mama said this, and then mama did that, and then mama just doesn't let me go outside because she's just not fun. And it's like, I went through periods of my life not doing those things when I look back, and I did speech and debate in high school, and that's exactly what I did. I did a lot of like animated voices and a lot of acting, and that is something that I'm really passionate about. And I remember whenever I first started getting tattoos, I'm like, what movie star has tattoos? Because back in the day it wasn't a thing, right? You were like a blank canvas, right? And now you see like actors like Jonah Hill with like sleeves, or a lot of Justin Bieber. I mean, he's more of a musician, but like, you see a lot of actors now that have a ton of tattoos, and it's like, and so they just wear makeup to cover it if in that movie it's required, or that's just what they want. Like, and so I think I'm just happy to see that society's evolved a lot and just allowed people to fully express themselves as they are. Because at the end of the day, that's what tattoos, piercings, colorful hair, a lot of that is. It's just me expressing myself. It has literally zero to do with who I am as a person and what my morals are and if I'm kind. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with that. So I also think what's inspired a lot of this, and to reminding myself of who I am, and just tapping back into that well that I have, that I pour into, because we all have this inner well. Like Casey Musgrave said, like, she found a deeper well. Great song, Deeper Well. And it's about like that you have this inner source of energy and flow that is yours, that you always pour into, and that you have to remember to dig back and like get some of that water again, instead of like looking around and trying to get it from other people. Beautiful song. That's another artist that inspires me. I feel like she's rediscovered herself a lot. Same thing with Ariana Grande. I feel like as a lot of people have approached their Saturn return, you kind of just see them like, not that they entirely lost themselves along the way, but you almost just feel like they're an entirely different person, but also exactly the same. It's almost like having like a warm cookie. You're like, it's so familiar, but maybe it has macadamia nuts this time. So it's like, it's so familiar, but it's also like a little bit new. And it's a very comforting feeling to watch these artists grow and evolve and have them potentially come back to their original sound or go an entirely different direction, and you watch them find themselves. I've seen people judge artists like, oh well, they changed, like it, for example, even with Bad Bunny. Oh, like, well, he did reggaeton for so long, and then this most recent album is more like merengue, it's more salsa, it's more, like ethnic, it's more cultural, it's more rhythmic, and it's like, why are we putting these boxes, right? We're putting artists into boxes, and we're like, you have to be like this. But in reality, nobody fits into this box. And I know for a fact my box would be a figure 8 if you had to put me in it, because slim, thick. But like, why are we allowing ourselves to put people into boxes when I don't want to be put into a box? I don't want to be putting my sister into a box. I don't want to be putting anybody into a box, because putting somebody into a box limits them, and there should be no limits put onto anybody. Anybody should be allowed to change and to become a different person if they want to. And so I highly encourage everybody to be doing their inner work, to be journaling, to be tapping into yourself, like turn off your phone, like turn off the music, like what do you want to do? What are your wants? Because whenever you're listening to stuff all the time, you are allowing yourself to absorb whatever it is that you're listening to. And so I'm not saying that like stuff can't inspire you. Of course, allow for things to inspire you, or allow yourself to be entertained here and there. But like, ultimately know and understand that like, why are you doing things? What is your why? How do you feel? What do you want to do today? What do you want to do? Not what does your partner want to do? What do your kids want to do? And I'm not saying don't compromise. Obviously, there has to be compromise, but don't lose your sense of self. And I think that happens a lot as people become parents, as people get their big girl jobs, as people, take on different roles in their house. Like, you allow for those things to completely identify you. And no, I am Gaby the artist. I am Gaby the daughter. I am Gaby the girlfriend. I am Gaby the sister. I am Gaby the sister-in-law. I have a lot of different identities, but ultimately there's a baseline, right, of who Gaby is in general, right? And maybe some of those roles require a little bit more of me than others, but I still am Gaby, right, at my very deepest core. And so I am just really excited to continue to rediscover myself. I feel like I've allowed for a lot of people to influence me, and not necessarily in positive ways, but even with just social media, like, oh, this person has this person has that, or oh, I really like their outfit, but it's like, do I like their outfit, or are they just confident in wearing it? And I like the confidence that they're exuding, right? And a lot of times that's what it is. They're just exuding confidence, and I just think that, oh, I want to buy this because maybe it'll make me feel or look that confident. And so, I'm back to thrifting. I grew up thrifting all the time, and I feel like that's a huge part of my identity. I'm somebody who loves to buy secondhand. I love the idea of being able to recreate things, and so I'm really excited to pop out my sewing machine again and just to like see where things go, because it's a part of who I am. I love to create. I'm creating at any given moment, whether it be writing, whether it be sewing, whether it be crocheting, whether it be I don't know if I already said writing. I probably already did. Singing. I love to sing, and now I'm singing more in the shower, and like going about my day just singing songs. And I meant to say this. The show Love on the Spectrum, it's a show on Netflix about kids who are not kids, adults who are autistic, who are trying to find love, right? Essentially like a dating show. Very, very wholesome. Highly recommend it. One of my favorite reality shows, and one of the only ones that I watch now. Used to love The Bachelorette, The Bachelor, and things like that, but eventually I started to realize I was comparing myself to people. I was judging people. I was gossiping. I was, oh, I don't like her dress. I don't like her hair. Oh, why would she do that? And no, be impeccable with your word. I've been really, really trying to do my best of not talking about people, not judging people, things like that. So Love on the Spectrum is a great middle ground for me to be able to enjoy reality TV, and just to sit there and to just, like, I don't know, be inspired by people who are authentically themselves, because that's a big part of like being autistic is, your brain just processes things differently. And maybe you have, excuse me, different quirks, maybe you collect different things, and, excuse me, and I love that. I used to collect so many things growing up. I, have different quirks about me, but people would always tell me I was weird, right? I've had cousins, especially my guy cousins, Gaby, you're so weird. And I would be constantly told that I was weird, and I associated weird with being negative, because I don't think I think most people would think like, oh, that's weird, right? You don't have a positive association with that word. And if you do, I don't know. Leave me an alien emoji in the comments if you've ever been called a weirdo, okay? If you've ever been called a weird, leave me an alien emoji in the comments. Being called a weirdo is not something that I've ever thought of like, oh, that's a good thing. So I feel like I've held a lot of my quirks back because I was called weird. People are gonna think this is gross. So one thing, my sister-in-law used to work at Subway. I kept the original Subway wrapper that she made my Subway sandwich in for years. That's just on like the beginning level of like my weirdness, right? Like, I had that. It didn't have like any food or anything on it, but I kept that wrapper because I just like associated it with like, oh, it's the first sandwich that she ever made me at Subway. And, to a lot of people, it's like, that's fucking weird. And like, to me, it was like, oh no, it's just a memory. But, eventually I started throwing that stuff away, and I used to keep poems that, guys had written me whenever I was growing up. I used to get a lot of poems and songs written to me by people, and my sister's like, it's like, why would you keep that? That's strange. Like, it's weird. You should throw that all away. Why do you still have all that? And then so I started throwing away all that stuff. I'm like, I gotta let go. And obviously you do have to let go of things, but like, I look back and I'm like, those are memories, and those are words, and that's art that somebody created for me. Like, I inspired for them to write that, and know that now those are things that I don't have anymore, and so like, I think I do get attached and hold sentimental value to a lot of things, but it's like, okay, that's just who I am. I'm a sentimental person, and maybe we don't keep the Subway wrappers, but maybe we do keep the poems. And it's just finding that middle ground of like between hoarding versus like holding on to something that you're inspired by, or that makes you feel some type of way, in a good way. Don't hold on to things that make you feel shitty, gross, or like that don't hold value into your life, right? So yeah, just been rediscovering myself, and I love that this podcast is just a like timestamp onto my life now. And I just think it's cool that I'll be able to look back and be like, damn, like, this is where I started, and this is where I'm at now, especially like with the artist way. And I don't know. I think it's just a really cool process, you know, just watching yourself grow. Getting older is a blessing and it's such a cool thing. And I'm just happy to be here, y'all. I'm so happy to be alive. And, you know, like a year and a half ago, I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, I can't do this. Like, I can't be here anymore. I don't like it. I hate my life. And I remember just bawling and, like, you know, she just held me. She didn't know what to do. And, you know, we had a heart to heart, but you know, I've had very low points, and, you know, I got to do an episode just about depression in general and, you know, just hitting your lows. But ultimately, those lowest of lows can bring you your highest of highs. You got to hit your lows to really realize, like, things got to fucking change. And so things had to change, and look at where I'm at now. I'm in a much, much better place now, and I'm just happy to be here. And I want to thank you all for being here and supporting me throughout this journey. It's going to be a long and wild ride, so, you know, buckle up. Spend some time today rediscovering yourself and go back to doing the things that you loved as a kid. Those things were fun to you then, and I'm sure they'll still be fun to you now. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave this podcast a 5-star review, and I will catch you on the next one.